audience. I'm Kristy Colbert, everybody. I've taken several classes that deal with reading and literature for children, and I'm going to tell you a little bit today on why teaching children how to read from a very young age is very important. Imagine it's the first day of school at ABC Elementary School. Michael is going to his first day of class. He's not sure what to expect, but he knows he's very excited. When Michael's in the classroom, he sees all the other children getting assessments from the teacher. These types of assessments are, can you write your name, can you pick out a sight word, do you know how to do any spelling, those types of things. Michael doesn't realize why he isn't aware of how to do any of these things. He's extremely disappointed in himself and wonders, what did I do wrong? This is why it is imperative for parents, for caretakers, and for early developmental teachers to make sure that they are giving the child plenty of exposure in written language. The child needs this written language to be able to become a fluent reader. Adults need to be sensitive to the children's need of this immersion into the written word. They need to have a substantial amount of exposure before school even begins. If they are given this type of exposure, they will be able to be successful learners. You can compare children in this stage to flowers. Both of them need certain things in order to blossom. They both need to be planted, they both need to be watered, and they both need to be pollinated. The children need to be given opportunities with exposure to reading in order to be able to be planted and begin to grow. McCracken states that the meaning, the ideas, concepts, and content are foremost in teaching children how to use the written language. Now by this he means it's not just important that they know what a word means, that cat is cat, but they need to understand the deeper meaning. What is the cat? And if it's used in a sentence, what is the cat doing? Or what is the description of that cat? Cohn states that children learn to read and learn the written language by talking, by singing, and by reading. Now parents can start to give children informal exposure at home. They can do things like grab a book and learn some simple chants through it. Things like goosey goosey gander or there was a crooked man. This begins to let the child experience the written language. The written language and oral language as well are learned through interactions. Children learn informally from each other, from their parents, from caregivers, and from early education teachers. The children not being exposed to written language is like the child not being given, or the flower not being given water. Neither will be able to grow without the repeated exposure to the water, or in this case, to the written language. Adults must ensure that they give the children enough exposure to the written language. Repeated exposure to text is critical. Wells states that over 1,000 hours of reading is essential for a child to even begin to comprehend print concepts. Adults can encourage children to read by rereading books, talking about books at bedtime. You can grab a story of collections and make it exciting at night to let the child pick what book you want to read together or you read to them depending on what stage. You can further start talking about what the pictures are through the book to get them really excited and entertained throughout the reading. Variation is also key in helping children to understand the written word. They need to have storybooks, poetry, chants, anything that will have some type of rhyme or reason to it and help the children to understand what they're reading. So the children have been watered, they've been pollinated with different types of exposure, but what happens if they didn't get the exposure they need? What happens to the Michaels of the classroom? When they don't have a solid background in the written language, the Michaels will continue to feel inadequate. They may feel stupid. They may feel like they're guilty for not being as advanced or understanding the same materials as the other children. This is not fair to them. We have to do better for the Michaels. There are several reasons that we need so much exposure. Cole says that the children must develop concepts about print rules. Children must learn that print is predictable, that it has certain direction. For instance, all of the literature will go from top to bottom. It will also go from left to right. They need to learn that after they get to the end, the right side of the sentence, they have to go down and start at the left again and work their way over. And this is going to be predictable through all the texts that they read. Up, down, left to right. They need lots of exposure to be able to understand that concept. Thank you. And they also have to have enough language to be able to discuss the print. They have to be able to talk about why does it go up and down and left and right? What starts a sentence? What starts a word? And by being submersed in written language on a daily basis, they are able to begin a language to discuss what they are reading or what is being read to them. They have to learn basic principles of the written language. Cone states that they need to learn how to understand that letters make up a word makes up a sentence makes up a paragraph, etc. They also need to learn meaning of words. There's deeper meaning too, but they need to learn that letters grouped together equals a word grouped together equals sentences, etc. again. But most importantly, they need to be able to understand and decipher the meaning of a sentence. What is that meaning trying to convey to the reader? What did the author want to get across in writing this sentence? Why is this important to what I'm reading? What am I supposed to get from this? So if they get the head start by being planted and being given an exposure to written and oral language, and then they are watered with plenty of exposure on that, they get pollinated by varying the ways in which written and oral language is given to them. When these steps are followed, the children or the flowers are then able to grow and to blossom into fluent readers. This is what is most important for the children. Repeated exposure and the variation are the essential keys in the process of learning how to read. These need to be followed and done by all adults. It is the caretaker, it is the parent, and it is the early education teacher's job to ensure that exposure and variation are just repeated into the child until they are able to learn. All adults should keep this in mind when around children or when they have their own. They want to enable the child to blossom, to read, and to feel adequate next to other children once they start school. By taking a few easy steps, it is so easy to help a child to blossom into these skills to grow. The key things to remember are to give the child repeated exposure and to vary that exposure to keep it interesting for the child. When these steps are followed in a home before kindergarten even begins, a parent or the teacher or caregiver, they are giving the child a solid background to be able to start reading and to be in a level in school that the teacher is able to then scaffold upon. This makes the child have a strong beginning, and that makes the learning excel from that point. I hope to see less Michaels in the schools that feel that they are unable to keep up or keep pace with the other students. All students beginning school should feel like they have some type of background and understanding in the written language to be able to fully understand and excel.